Just three different examples here of some at least very efficient, we'll say, different magnetic motors. A few different designs. This is a Bedini type motor. Bedini's quite famous for some of his designs of battery charging technology. This one here has a single coil with ceramic magnets on a single flywheel. And the way it basically works is it pulses the power to repel. So you see the magnet's attracted to sort of an iron core in the center of the magnet here. But when the coil pulses, it repels it away. And as the second magnet is passing by it, it will induct a charge into the coil here, and that coil can be used to feed back into the device. So as Dan was saying, it sort of feeds back in on itself, and you recycle that current and use a little bit more technology, a little bit more of the energy to run the motor. So it makes them very efficient. I'll just do a little bit of an explanation.
Does it have a net gain?
Questions in a second. Yeah, this one does. When you add up the total power on all of these engines that's coming off of the torque and what it's drawing from the battery, there is a gain. This one here is developed based on the principle of Conant, I guess. Conant's a friend of ours, and he came up with this sort of design. And this one has bifilers in it, does it?
No, that one's not.
There's no bifilers in here? Okay, so bifilar coil is one way of doing that to get the induction as well. Some of these designs, they're wound with two conductors in the coil, and while one coil charges up and your magnets pass by it, it induces a large magnetic field passing through the coil itself. So it takes the induction off of the primary and inducts it to the secondary. And these ones work with two batteries. So you'll have one battery that's running the motor, and it's powering the shaft. And as the armature is basically moving, it's pulling that secondary inductance, and the back EMF forms a high voltage spike. And so basically what you do is rectify that high voltage spike with these diode bridge on top, and you feed that power back into your second battery. So after your first battery drains, it switches over and then takes power off your second battery. And between the power that you're getting, the mechanical power off of the shaft, and the power you're using from your batteries, they're quite a bit over units. This one here is got two. The flywheels have neodymiums embedded in them. If you turn this, you can feel how strong these magnets are. And basically what happens with this one is once you put your power into there's a set of coils A and B, and you put your power into the A set, it overcomes that magnetic field and moves it forward, and then your B set of coils picks up the induction from the magnets passing by it, and again goes out to your second battery, and then it flops and pulls that current back and forth between the batteries. And again, between the power input and the mechanical power off the shaft. Some of them don't run just off the battery forever, because you're putting a lot of mechanical power into it. But when you do the calculations and add up your torque and horsepower that you're getting out of it and the batteries, they're definitely running over unity. This one was like 7 watts in and about 14 watts out.
40
watts
mechanical.
out, sorry, in mechanical. So that's quite a bit over unity. And then having this plastic design makes these things lightweight, and they're still very strong, and you can use them in space. The more you cool them down, then the better they work. So if you use it in a really low temperature environment, they basically become like superconductors. For projects in outer space, they'd be ideal motors. I don't know if NASA's, well, I'm sure they are using very similar type technologies for a lot of their stuff. So there's a growing a standard motor that you would have in your washing machine or your refrigerator, and they're only about 60 to 80% efficient. A really good one would be 90% that you pay, you know, big bucks for a motor like that. But that's kind of a brief explanation of some of the things people are doing in the magnetic motor movement. That's right. So in a standard motor, because of the way the armatures are wound in that, there's heat losses and there's radiative losses in the coils, and those losses add up, and that makes them less efficient.
And in contrast to that idea with the normal machinery, these things have an efficiency of 100+%.
Yeah.
Just going to mention that regular AC motors and DC motors, the design hasn't changed in over 100 years.
Yeah.
They've been the same.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
Nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
And with these things, a lot of what's making these work properly is a system of resonance too, where you're using capacitors in line with the coils to create a resonant effect.
Yeah. So most motors today are frequency dependent. So depending on the frequency you put into them, you get 60 hertz here in North America off your power lines. Those motors all run at 60 hertz. So as you put a load on them, it slows down, and then they become less efficient. So just like to start a motor up takes a lot of power to get it going. But these ones are frequency independent. It doesn't matter what your load is and how it slows down. That's the frequency they're running at, because it's all internal timing rather than relying on a AC sort of current system for the frequency.
If I might propose that, I think there's a way to relate this conversation to our lesson of the day, which has to do with the heart, actually, which is about, where does the energy come from? And I'd like to propose, and I'd be interested in your thought on this, Paul, but I was working with Tom Malone, who made the film with Nonlinear Energy, long story, please get here. And they were working on what they called perpetual motion machines. And I think there's an analog over you were doing that might be instructive. What they had basically was a circular gear, like a wheel gear, and on the edge of that gear, there's another circular wheel. So this is a gear that's going around this pivot. And now here's an axis to another gear going around that pivot here. On the outside of that, here's an axis to another gear going around there. And at some point here, there's a weight. Now there's a weight here. So this is, let's call that a small weight. So this is a gear on a gear on a gear on a gear. If anybody remembers the book Foucault's Pendulum, you're getting the idea. Do you know the book Foucault's Pendulum? About mysteries. The Foucault's Pendulum applies a similar principle that if you had a pendulum swinging back and forth here, and then attached to that pendulum, there's a smaller pendulum swinging back and forth here. And attached to that pendulum, there's a smaller pendulum swinging back and forth here. Now, writing the physics that describes how this pendulum exchanges inertia with this one, etc., that physics approaches fractality and recursion when you understand gravity. Let me see if I can explain. So, what they found was when this gear was going around, it would throw this one around. That would then throw this one around. Now, if you arrange the rate of turns of the gear such that, and this is my insight, tell me if this makes sense to you, this is my hypothesis. The moment that this would appear to achieve perpetual motion was when, if you made a spiral, if you made a graph of the position of the center of gravity of the system, where the most weight was, if you made a graph of the position of the center of gravity of the system, when you got the relative turn rates such that the center of mass made a golden spiral. You see that? The moment they appear to get perpetual motion was when this mass makes a golden spiral. So you got to get the ratio of this to this to this right, and suddenly the center of mass is doing this, and then it appears to drive itself, and the thing would walk across the floor. And they were on to patent this and make big bucks, which is fine. But you need to know, why did the center of mass want to make a golden mean spiral? And how